People who eat highly processed food or trans fats have a smaller brain than people who don't, and it's in proportion to the severity of diet. And the reverse is true. People who eat a healthy diet, such as a Mediterranean diet, tend to have larger, healthier brains. Now, average person doesn't know about published studies and they just think that, eh, a French fries, that's not going to affect my life. But the point is this: when you eat highly processed food or things that are high in trans fats or things that spike your sugar level, you increase the number of these things called amyloid in the brain. See, when the main hallmarks of Alzheimer's disease is these things called amyloid plaques and tau tangles, as well as these other things that can increase inflammation and reduce blood flow. When you have a poor diet and you have obesity, you get both problems. You have more of these Alzheimer's footprints in your brain, and you have more inflammation, and you have less blood flow. So, um, when you're sitting and there's some French fries on a table, if I told you you eat these French fries, you die, you will not be tempted. You won't say, that's just a French fries. No, obviously, you're not going to die. However, if you appreciate how bad this junk food is, you shouldn't touch it. Just the same way you don't smoke, you should not eat junk food. And you can do it gradually. You can say, okay, I'm going to cut back on French fries and this for 50% for 2 weeks, and then try to do very little for 2 more weeks. And a month from now, no junk food. So if you see donuts and poorly prepared pizza or cookies or chips or things that are clearly junk food, things that come in boxes and bags and been sitting on shelves for a long time, are high in trans fats. So I don't touch them. You know, well, to be honest with you, sometimes I do. Like, we went for Mother's Day and there was some French fries. I had one, just one. I
One
just wanted
fry.
to
That is
one
impressive.
little fry, and and I don't want to be like, okay, fine, I'll have it. So I think if you appreciate how important diet is, you'll be following a healthy diet much easier.
One thing my wife and I have been paying closer attention to is, especially because of her family connectivity and history, is metabolic health and the blood sugar regulation.
Yes,
Some researchers even refer to Alzheimer's as diabetes 3.
yes.
How strong is that connection, and what's your perspective on that comment?
Yeah, absolutely. Some people call Alzheimer's disease type 3 diabetes, and it reflects how important the state of metabolic conditions affect your brain. If your sugar levels spike and you have high trans fats, then you have high levels of inflammation. And inflammation is like a fire that destroys the brain. And, it's one thing to have occasional, like a little bit of something here and there, that's not good for you. It's another thing to eat a big hamburger and fries and a cup of soda for lunch, and then have another junk food for dinner, and do that on a regular basis. That's really horrible, not only for your brain, but it's also for your eyes and your heart and your kidney. All organs need uh, to have low levels of inflammation and high levels of blood flow. And this kind of diet impacts those two factors. In the brain, it also contributes to formation of these amyloid plaques, which are the hallmarks of Alzheimer's disease. So,
So it
no
so
junk
it's really
food.
important to pay attention to that blood sugar, that spike,
Yes.
and understanding your own body, even if you're maybe utilizing a tool for a short amount of time to understand what spikes your body, what because everybody's different, right? I mean, we all have a different dynamic of how something may or may not impact our own body, our own body's response, albeit still if we're eating junk food, we know that's probably gonna spike it, but there are other things that we might not know that we would find out, and it could help us.
Yes. There are these glucose monitoring devices that you can wear for a couple of weeks. And it's very interesting because, you can eat something and you can see your sugar spike that you wouldn't expect. And I think once you see it, next time you have to eat a big cookie, you think twice about it. You can have a little, a little bite, but don't finish a whole, you know, cookie. Now, the one thing that's good for you and tastes good is actually dark chocolate. Cocoa is something that increases blood circulation in the brain, and so dark chocolate has been shown to be actually one of the things that's good for your brain. The
Well,
other
I
things that
love
are good for the brain are blueberries. I love
mm,
blueberries, and I eat them every day. The other thing that's really good for a healthy brain is yogurt. I usually have a small bowl of Greek yogurt most days, and high fiber food are good for you because they release something called small chain fatty acids that are good for the brain and all other organs and immune system. So in the mornings, I usually have a bowl of oatmeal and some bananas, some blueberries. It's low carb and high fiber, which I think is great. And for lunch, I have, as I said, just a small cup of yogurt, and for dinner, which I usually eat around 5 or 6, I eat, usually vegetables and some kind of meat, whether it's red meat or chicken or fish. I'm not a fan of red meat, but maybe once or twice a week, my wife puts it on the table, so I eat whatever she puts in front of me.
I understand that 100%.
Yeah. So I think diet is something that can make a difference in your brain. And if you make it a priority, and make it a habit, then you don't have to think about it. Like now, I don't have to think about whether or not I'm going to gobble up a whole hamburger unless I know it's well prepared. I'm not going to eat a whole hamburger. I'm mindful of what I eat, and then it's a habit. Now it's a routine. I don't have to think about it anymore.
What about the value of fasting? Do you find that to be efficient and effective as a form of management? And I know for those of you listening, I think there's a lot of studies out there that might say that men and women are differently impacted based on their bodies and fasting, and what is better for one is not good for the other. But I think finding those things could be beneficial. What is your take on fasting in general?
Many studies have shown that intermittent fasting could be helpful for brain functions. And I think that if you're doing intermittent fasting and you don't eat for like 16 hours and you feel sharper than usual, then go ahead, do it. I think you need to have a kind of dietary routine that are easy and enjoyable. Like if you suffer being hungry, don't do that. You want to enjoy life every day. And the evidence is not so compelling for me to do intermittent fasting. I think it's good not to eat too much. When you go to Europe and you come back here, you realize that average person here consumes more food than in Europe. And I don't know if it's just a habit or it's just traditionally how it's done. You don't need to eat that much. Like, for breakfast, you can have small bowl of whatever it is you're eating. For lunch, maybe small portions. And, some restaurants you go here, they give you enough food for like 4 people. And a lot of people actually finish what's on their plate. And I think that's unfortunately a habit for many of us here, and it's not a healthy habit. In general, I favor eating less and cherishing everything you eat. Like if you sit down and you have a meal for you, enjoy every bite and like think about, this is good, and chew your food, and just enjoy it. So the bottom line is, if you have done intermittent fasting, you find it helpful for your weight management or your brain functions, continue doing it. In general, I don't recommend it. I don't do it myself. I do uh, eat very little during the day. I mean, eat breakfast, and then for lunch, I only have small yogurt, and then I eat dinner around 5, and that seems to be working for me.
Yeah, again, another thing I noticed with the Whoop, and again, for me, it's more accountability, just being aware, is I started to recognize the impact of my sleep and late food. So the
Mhm.
sugars, just the spike of stress of my body working overtime to process what I put in my mouth up to a certain point in time. The also the negative impacts of alcohol also was eye opening. I think that's something a lot of people
Mhm.
notice that they change once they start tracking how it impacts the body. And it's extremely eye-opening to me just to watch how that has altered some of the decisions that I make in a day-to-day basis. So YouTube has this cool feature where they pick the next video for you, and it's right here on this screen. So I hope you enjoy this next video.